Hello and welcome to History for Weirdos.
We're your hosts, Andrew
and Stephanie,
and each week we're going to take you on a journey into the strange, obscure, and relentlessly entertaining corners of human history.
Now listen up, friends, because it's about to get weird. Welcome back, Weirdos. On this week's episode of History for Weirdos, we have a very special episode. We are going to be interviewing Jon Collins-Black. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Jon is a lover of games, puzzles, challenges, and adventures. He has also hunted for hidden treasures. Inspired by his love of childhood fantasy mythical quests, an idea came to him to create a national treasure hunt. So magical, it might captivate the imagination of millions. Jon spent nearly 5 years of his life acquiring this treasure and securing it into its hidden locations and writing the book, There's Treasure Inside. He hopes you enjoy discovering it. And we are going to talk to him about that hidden treasure today.
Yes, guys, we are so excited. Jon, when your publicist first pitched you, we were so incredibly excited. We're like, we have to get this guy on here immediately. And here you are.
Here I am. That was a great intro. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, of course. And
we're happy to have you. I'm very excited to be here, actually.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a perfect fit because the idea of treasure hunting in and of itself feels very historical and very nostalgic.
It is.
Yeah. So what got you interested in treasure hunting to begin with?
Oh boy. I mean, I think in different ways I hunted for treasure since I was a kid. You know, some of my earliest memories are like digging in the red clay dirt in North Carolina, looking for quartz crystals, you know, and then only finding like smoky quartz and being like, this isn't very cool, and then keep digging for something more with more sparkle and shine. You know, I think that I always had a sense of adventure and just wanted to be out in nature, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Did you learn about a treasure hunter or something that made you formalize that sense of adventure that you have?
There was a kind of a genesis experience of treasure hunting that was kind of led up in some ways to the treasure hunt that I've created. Back in 2016, early 2016, late 2015, I was out here in LA and I was in the music industry and I loved making performing music, but I got burnt out and I was needing to shift gears. And so I'd always had this idea, like if I could clone myself, like it'd be cool. There was so many different things I would like to do. Like if I had 15 different versions of myself, maybe I could be a monk or a paleontologist or a race car driver. Because I actually grew up close to where NASCAR started. But so I had these different ideas of things I would love to be. And then one of them was treasure hunter. And I was like, well, I've got some free time on my hands.
Oh my gosh.
What would this look like? So I actually started doing research on, because back then when I thought of treasure, I thought of like sunken treasure, shipwrecked treasure.
Yeah.
Like Jacques Cousteau, getting a boat and a crew and some special sonic equipment and going out and searching for treasure. And so I started actually doing research on this. And about a week or two into it, I was like, this is going to be a huge undertaking. It's not simple to go look for a shipwrecked treasure. So I think in a moment of doubt, I did a search for hidden treasure in the United States. And all these articles came up of this treasure that had been hidden by this gentleman in Santa Fe, or he was from Santa Fe. His name was Forrest Fenn.
Oh, no, I'm not familiar with that story. Are you?
Yeah, he basically had hidden about $500,000 of gold in a treasure box somewhere in the Rocky Mountains.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, so there's a treasure that's a lot more accessible.
Yeah.
And I might, I know it exists. And I don't think anyone's found it because there's all these forums of people talking about it, but no one's found it. And I'd love to go out into nature and actually, see if I can find this thing. And so I actually spent several months of my own life on the search for that treasure. And I think that having the experience of going out into nature or trying to solve clues, because he wrote a poem. He just had one poem, and trying to solve the clues in the poem and going out and find that treasure was really just exciting, and
I bet.
lit something in my belly, and that stayed with me. So then COVID happened.
Oh yeah.
You guys remember that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately.
So
Yeah.
there was 2020, and we were all stuck in our homes
Yeah.
with too much time on our hands. And so I was in a unique situation because I was like, what do I want to do next? And I got this idea of, well, you could create your own treasure hunt. And I was in a unique situation because I had experience hunting for treasure. So I knew that there was like just something magical about that I thought would appeal to a lot of people. But I also had the means. I was in a unique financial situation in my life where I had the means to actually create something that was going to be really, really large and dynamic, and I didn't have to worry about doing something and making a profit.
Right.
Right.
Hiding a treasure is not going to make a profit. It's just the opposite.
Yeah.
And then I had some extra time on my hand to really figure out how I was going to do this. And I was really naive because I thought it was going to take me like a year. And it took me close to 5. So.
Oh my God. So during that 5 years, what were you doing? Like, how were you going about acquiring this treasure or all these
So that
various
was
pieces?
kind of the first thing, right? It's like, what do I actually want to acquire?
Yes.
And I didn't know where to start. Forrest basically had mostly just gold in his. And when I first thought of like treasure, it was like, okay, gold, and what else? But then over time, I started getting better ideas.
Okay.
And I wanted to really create something that would appeal to a wide variety of people and ages. Yes, gold in a box, that's great. Like some people like pirate treasure kind of thing, like that sounds great. But what if we could make it more accessible to different people, different interests? So I wound up getting things like physical Bitcoin. A lot of people are like, what's that? But it's
I've
it's
seen it.
digital keys on a physical coin, rare Pokemon cards.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
I got a lot of historical items from people that either made or owned by people like George Washington and Picasso and Amelia Earhart and Henry David Thoreau and Andrew Carnegie and
Wow.
Oh my God.
Jackie Onassis. And so I just wanted to have a wide range of different objects.
A little something for everyone.
Yeah.
To try to spark different interests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was about trying to get people to participate. That's really what I wanted to do, was to get people out of their homes, away from their TVs and cell phones, and out into nature.
That's honestly such an amazing mission. Yeah, it's a great mission statement beyond just the treasure itself. And speaking of the treasure, it seems like a lot of these are very historical pieces. It's not just, like you said, like your normal gold bars, right?
Yeah.
Which
Right.
there is one I've seen.
More than
there's-
one, yeah.
There are, I can tell you some of my favorite pieces I've seen were
Okay.
the Hellenistic pieces, of course, right? I'm a
Oh,
huge
yeah.
ancient history guy. So I saw there were 2, not rings, but bracelets. It looked like that were
Yep.
from the 4th century BC. Very plausible that they could have been worn by someone who knew Alexander the Great.
Yeah, so I have those 2 goat bracelets.
Yeah.
And then I have a snake bracelet, and then I have a gold crown wreath.
Yes,
Oh,
I saw
yes.
the crown wreath.
Yeah, and
I was like,
all
I
those
want it.
were all those were from or around the time of Alexander the Great. So, as you probably know, when he conquered all those lands in less than 13 years, everything from Macedonia to India, they brought tons of gold back to Greece, and then they really started using that gold to create jewelry, which was kind of like jewelry / artwork,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it was really kind of a status symbol.
Of course.
There's a lot of actual, probably R-rated symbolism around those goat bracelets. I don't know what age your listeners are, but
Unsurprising with the Greeks.
Yeah, it really is.
Unsurprising.
What is your favorite piece of all of them? What was the hardest one to let go of?
yeah, that's really hard to say.
Really?
I mean, I wish I get that question a lot.
Yeah.
And there were all of the, I mean, everything I got, I thought was really awesome, and I wanted it to be something that not only I thought would resonate to a lot of other people, but that I would be really proud of. So it's hard to pick one. I have a 96 carat emerald. You actually see it on the cover of my book, a picture of it there. But that was really special to hold.
Yeah.
The stuff from ancient Greece was really special. There's a diamond and sapphire brooch that was owned by Jackie Onassis when she was in the White House.
Oh my goodness.
And that was my dad's favorite. He was like, "Are you sure?
Oh, did your dad want it maybe?
Are you sure you want to put that in the treasure box?" I got a lot of that from my family who saw a lot of the items. They were like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah, because it's so incredible, like you said, I imagine, to hold those pieces.
Yeah.
How much willpower do you need to put them away and then hide them where no one can find them?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Power, indeed.
How do you start going about finding something like the Jackie Onassis pin?
Yeah.
Do you start with like, I know I want this pin, or how does it unfold?
That's a great question. I started putting a list together, and then I started talking to different people who were experts in different fields. So I was very fortunate. I know a gentleman who, Rob Levinsky, who's the largest rare mineral dealer in the United States and one of the largest in the world. And so I knew I could maybe source some really cool gems and raw minerals from him, like sapphires, rubies, emeralds, and diamonds and things like that. And things that were just different than what you would normally find. And then I asked him, do you know other experts that in other fields of collectibles?
Yeah.
Because I'm not someone who collected a lot of stuff.
Okay.
I was just a dad, a stay-at-home dad for 2 kids, writing children's books when I started putting this together. So I didn't have this network. So I just basically started networking through people, asking, well, who do you know? And then getting ideas from them, and then kind of the scope happened from there. And then sometimes I would just try to do searches online to see if there was any cool things, and I would keep up with different auction houses, and I had all these different spreadsheets and
Oh my gosh.
and then a lot of it was just kind of like serendipity. Like sometimes I would be like, I want this, and then somehow the next day it would somehow appear somewhere.
Manifesting.
Yeah,
There was definitely found
Yeah.
at some point that there was like powers greater than myself who were kind of at work helping me along. Because one thing that actually went faster looking back on it than I would have ever expected was actually how quickly I was able to acquire everything. Like,
Really?
I was able to do it most everything in less than a year.
Oh, that's so surprising. I thought when you said it took 5 years that it was 5 years of looking for stuff.
That was just chapter 1, finding stuff.
Oh, so the other 4 years were about actually finding the places to hide the stuff.
Partly, but I also kind of did it maybe more backwards than what you would actually think, because I had all these ideas of things that I wanted, and then I acquired all this stuff and had all this stuff, and then I was like, wow, like I really need to start the research process.
Oh.
And that was the thing, because unlike the two of you, I'm not a historian.
Oh, we're not
historians either.
I don't believe you. I've listened to your work. I think you are. But so then I was like, oh boy, this is going to be like hard.
Yeah.
Because I have there was 65 to 70 unique objects that each had either their own story or like stories around them, historical stories around them.
Yeah.
And so I hired 5 researchers, and we spent the better part of a year researching everything we could about every item that I had. And basically then they sent all that information to me, and I started reading the best of the stories, and I was literally just blown away by the history.
Yeah.
And there were things that like I just would never have imagined, things that I was like, I acquired this without knowing what I acquired, but it's so cool, much more cool than I even thought. And so that was really kind of informed the narrative of the book. The book is really a lot of the histories of the objects.
Okay.
Well, we love to hear that.
Yeah.
So I think when you read the book, you'll enjoy the history, because it's a lot of history in there.
And woven into the histories, you've left clues, correct?
Exactly.
For the actual treasure hunt itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know there's 4 sections, right, of where you're more, I think, deliberate in your clues to the 4 treasure chests. But there's one, like the ultra treasure chest. I'm putting my own words to this.
Yeah, from
I like
our
that.
research.
The ultra treasure chest. I played
That's how I'm going to respond to it now from now on out.
I played a lot of video games as a kid. But the ultra treasure chest, that has clues throughout the entire book. You have to be really paying attention.
Yep. So there are 5 treasures, and the reason that in case you want to know, the reason that there's 5 treasures and not one is that I wanted to make them accessible.
That's
you know,
amazing.
like in my experience with the treasure I was looking for, we knew it was in the Rocky Mountains. It was like a forested area. But looking back on it, not everyone would have had the opportunity to go to the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah.
Right.
Financially, or just how far away it is. I wanted to be able to spread them out so that people would think that there might be something accessible to me. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. 5 treasures instead of 1. But the execution of that was like way more difficult to hide 5 treasures. And also when I was like, how am I going to keep this from just being chaotic? So I have 4 treasures that are of a similar size, treasure boxes, and then I have one larger one, which, as you mentioned, has a lion's share of the treasure. And I have 4 chapters at the end of the book dedicated to each of those 4 other treasures. And then, yes, there's clues, can be anywhere in the book related to the largest one.
Did you have any help from your research assistants or from your family creating the clues, or was that all?
I did it all myself.
Wow.
And I did that because I didn't want anyone I know to have the responsibility of knowing, you know, in case though, you know, was any people who got too exuberant or whatever, you know, or I didn't want anyone else to have that responsibility. So yeah, that part was left up to me. And my wife was disappointed because she loves putting together clues. You know, we love puzzles and games and escape rooms, and like we do at-home escape rooms where we've made, you know, like small treasure hunts at our house for parties and things like that.
Oh, I love that.
So she would have loved to have been involved, but when I explained to her the reasoning, it made sense. So
yeah. If you ever hide a treasure, you have to tell me all the clues.
I will not.
Okay. I don't believe you for a second.
Yeah, no, I think you have much better willpower than I do.
Yeah.
I would
He would
crack
tell
under her
me.
pressure.
Yeah.
She'd use her like therapist mind games on me.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, okay.
That's totally what it is.
That's totally not just that I'm weak-willed when it comes to you.
Well, of the stories that you found when you were doing the research on these items, were there any that stood out to you as like really cool stories?
Yeah, I mean, they're all cool. Like they were really like cool history, but at the same time, there were a lot of like inspirational stories. I have a couple of gold medals in the treasure boxes, and
cool.
one was from the 1996 Atlantic Games.
Oh,
This is one of the first items I acquired. Like one of the very, very first, and I was kind of naive. I got it from an auction.
Okay.
And I didn't really even like read the details of it that closely. I was just like, I remember as a child watching those games and thinking they were so cool. And it was actually the gold medal from the Nigerian soccer team.
Oh, wow.
And so they won the gold medal that year in Atlanta, but their story is absolutely insane. Like it should be a movie.
Really?
Because that was like, they came over here with no money, had to pay with their trip with their own credit cards.
Oh my God.
Got their rental cars like repoed. Were kicked out of their had to wash their own clothes at the hotel because it was during the AIDS epidemic. And they were like, "You're from Africa, so we can't actually allow you to wash your clothes in the hotel washing machines." Wow. And they had to wash their own clothes and dry them on the yard. Like it was just their trip was total chaos. And plus, they weren't a very good team. They had never won anything. They weren't expected to do anything, and then they actually wound up like winning the whole thing. So it's an amazingly like great inspirational story.
That is so cool. We actually have recently we did an episode on Jim Thorpe, and he had a similar Olympic experience where like the odds were stacked against him and he won.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that happens.
He won with literal garbage shoes, like shoes he found in the garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, also when you think of Nigeria, you don't think of like a soccer powerhouse.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, you don't think of the United States either, but like the fact that they probably beat out Brazil, like Portugal.
Yeah, they actually
Spain,
beat Brazil.
Yeah. I mean, that's unbelievable.
And Argentina. And they, the interesting thing about Nigeria is they're a land of like hundreds of tribes.
Yeah.
So the very idea of having a national team is not quite what it is in a lot of countries.
Yeah.
And there's not every year. I don't want to like cast with a large net, but there have been historical like conflicts amongst the teams because they come from competing tribes.
Yep.
So this whole idea of like national team is not necessarily as cohesive for them as it is for other teams. But it's an amazing story, an amazing like kind of, it just reminds me of one of those Disney sports movies, like the underdogs like overcome all the obstacles, except it really happened. So it's really cool.
I love that.
I know, and it seems like this is just one story out of so many potential stories that are in like through all of your treasures.
Right.
I mean, I can't even imagine if you were to like put together all of them, like that would just be probably mind blowing.
Was there one that was harder to find than the others? Or did you tend to come about them with ease? Because you said it took you a year.
The objects?
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. There is. So there's an interview that was done. I talk about this. Screen Rant did an interview about the influence of Dungeons and Dragons had on my treasure hunt.
Yes, we saw that.
You saw that? So the very first idea of treasure in my head was like, this idea of a dragon's hoard.
Okay, yeah.
And in a dragon's hoard, you have gold coins, you have rubies, emeralds, and you have something like a gold chalice.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm like, I want a gold chalice. I want a gold chalice. And I was like, that's going to be easy. There's got to be,
a bunch of them everywhere.
I'm going to go to auction houses, and then I'm going to find this gold chalice. And it was hard. It was hard to find a gold chalice, like something really authentic. Like there's like lots of knockoffs, but I wanted something really real, really authentic. And it took me a long, long time, but I found a really cool one.
What's the story of the gold chalice? Where's it from?
So it's actually from South America, from the Chaban culture. And a lot of people don't know that culture because it was the first highland culture in the Andes Mountains. So they existed at like 10,000 feet altitude.
Wow.
About 2,000 years ago. And they were actually a religious cult.
Oh, this is so cool.
Oh my gosh.
They were a religious cult, and they built a temple that it was this labyrinth, and they would bring people through this labyrinth, and it was they would give them hallucinogens to drink, and they had such strong spiritual experiences, quote unquote, that it like kind of held this like influence over the culture for like 1,000 years.
Wow.
And so we don't know if this chalice was brought as an offering because these people would travel for hundreds of miles to these high elevations to offer sacrifices or gifts to the temple masters. Or it may have been, what they drank the hallucinogens out of. We don't know, but
that's so cool.
It was
That's
really cool.
so wild. Has there been any carbon dating on this chalice?
Not that I know of. I just know that it was like the kind of the historical provenance came from the auction house with it.
And how interesting that it's such a spiritual piece. I wonder, have you noticed, this may be a little like woo-woo, but do the different pieces of the treasure have different energies to you?
Totally.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, totally. Like everything has like, it's interesting. Like it's almost like you can feel like a little bit of where they came from with most of the pieces, or maybe I just my imagination makes that up, but it certainly feels that way. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What does the Jackie Onassis pin feel like?
It feels like... It feels fashionable.
Yeah,
I know that. Like it's like it feels like it can be worn like casual or really fancy. Like it's like it's interesting because she had such a fashion influence worldwide. But yeah, it definitely feels like something that's just really like you could wear it 50 years ago or you could wear it today.
That's so
it's
cool.
really cool.
I love those timeless pieces.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. On the flip side, do you have any of the artifacts or any of the treasures that have like more of a maybe like a negative or like a whole bit of a haunting feeling to them?
Oh.
There's one that comes to mind that could.
Oh.
Which one is that?
The Spanish oblong gold like the gold piece or the
You mean
gold...
the shipwreck piece?
Yes.
The gold disc or the
Or
bar?
the gold, like I think they called it an oblong, but it's like the gold bar, but it's like old Spanish one. It's not like a modern Spanish. Yeah, that one.
So there's a gold disc.
Okay.
It's round. And then there's a gold bar that's shaped like...
Gotcha. Okay, I think I'm talking
More
about
like-
the bar, but either one.
Yeah. I could see that. Like, I wouldn't say that like in person, but both of those have like crustaceans on them.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
you
that's
can
pretty
still
cool.
see the
That's so
crustaceans
cool.
from when they were under the water for like 241 years.
Oh my God.
That's like almost as long as we've been a country.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that bar that you mentioned, and I didn't know this again, I did not know this when I acquired it. So that shipwreck was found in 1993.
Okay.
And then to kind of commemorate that shipwreck, they made 245 box sets. Wow. And in those box sets, they had like a certificate, and then they had a gold coin from the shipwreck. And then they had a silver bar that was gilded silver, so to make it look gold.
Okay.
And it was modeled after that bar. So there were dozens and dozens of disc and bars recovered in that shipwreck, but apparently they thought that this one was the most beautiful of all of them. And so they modeled all of those box set bars off of the bar that I acquired.
Oh, that's so cool.
And at the time of writing, there was actually one on eBay you could buy at an auction. I don't know if it's still there or not, but yeah.
We got to go check.
Yeah, we got to go check. Does anyone in your life plan on going on this treasure hunt, by the way?
My sister.
Really?
Yeah, which just shocked me.
Why did that
Why
shock
is that?
you?
Because I love my sister to death. We're a lot alike in some ways, but like I just never saw, she's pretty like dry in some ways. Like, I wouldn't say cynical, but I just never, like, she loves the hike and stuff, but I've never seen her, like, would have thought she would have been interested in like searching for a treasure. But she showed interest right away. I think she was
That's so cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, my sister. We'll see what happens.
Is she your older sister or younger sister? Okay. So it's the little sister energy of like, I want to show my brother that
She's
I
really
can figure
smart,
it
though,
out.
so I wouldn't put it past her.
Yeah.
That would be wild.
I would probably get some criticism if she finds it. You know?
Yeah.
But I will say, I don't know if you remember this. I don't know, because I'm a little older than the two of you, but like when I was a kid, we had like the cereal box competitions or like stuff you could win. And there was always this fine print or like the McDonald's puzzles you try to put, you know what I'm talking about?
Right,
Forget what they were called. Anyway, so they all have this small print said that like employees and friends and family
can't
couldn't
participate.
participate.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was a kid, I was always like, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm glad I'm not like a friend and family like or employee. Like, why don't they get to participate? So like my family was like, you know, we can't participate, right? And I was like, yeah, sure you can, because I don't want you to be, you know, why not?
Right.
You didn't put a disclaimer on the book.
I did not. And if anyone complains about that, I'll be like, well, I just think it's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't tell your wife, you probably didn't tell your younger sister.
No, I didn't tell my younger sister anything.
Yeah. How about your kids? Are they interested in this treasure hunting side of you?
So I write about this in actually the first chapter of the book, because especially my son who's 6 now, he was 3 when I started writing the book.
Oh my gosh.
He's always like wanted to search for treasure. So he's always like digging under the couch cushions, hiding like, I remember that he would hide like plastic gems and like Play-Doh and then dig them back up.
Yep.
And he would go on treasure hunts in the yard. But I never mentioned what I was doing to either one of my kids. And it wasn't until like just in the last month or so when they started seeing some videos online and they're like, Dad, is that you? Did you really hide the treasure? Where did you hide it? How did you find all those things? And they started interrogating me, you know, but like I didn't really make it a big deal, but it was interesting to watch my son have like this kind of just innate desire to like, and I think a lot of kids have that, right? We come in and we have this sense of adventure and it's unbridled, and then we get older and we lose it.
I think it's every kid's dream to find a hidden treasure. I don't know any child that didn't go on treasure hunts at some point. I even looked for treasure in my parents' room as a kid, like, and then I'd find my mom's like jewelry in her jewelry box and be like, here it is, the treasure. So it's almost like you get to bring out your inner child by going on this treasure hunt.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what I would challenge. I mean, I would encourage people to do is like to allow your inner child to come out, because that's what this is really all about.
Do you expect folks to do this on their own or with friends in a group?
I know some people will do this on their own. I think it's better if you do it with someone else because,
Right.
you know, I searched, when I was searching for treasure, I did it by myself. And I also, for a time, and then Kimberly, who was my girlfriend at the time, joined me. And I really enjoyed having someone with me because just being out in nature, being able to explore with someone, I think it's more fun. I think two heads are better than one when you're trying to solve a puzzle. But I also think on a safety issue, it's better. All the treasures are hidden in safe places, and people shouldn't do anything silly to try to go places that aren't safe and do things that are unsafe. But like at the same time, it's always good to have someone with you.
Yes.
Especially if you're in a place where maybe the cell service isn't good or whatever. It's always good to have someone there, just for safety reasons.
I heard that safety was important for you when writing this book, reminding folks to be safe, that you didn't put this on the side of a cliff or anything.
Did my PR people tell you that?
No, when I was researching.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think on the website, right? I mentioned that, right? Yeah. It is. It's a big deal, because I do know that some people will get excited about this.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you can get carried away. I mean, I've had times in my life where I got too excited and got carried away and did something silly.
Right.
But, it's one thing, there's sometimes you can do that without consequences, and sometimes you can do that with consequences. So, yeah, I think safety is huge. I have a whole postscript in my book where I just talk about, like, safety.
Yeah.
And, like, these are the things that you should not do. Please do not do these things. There are no clues or hidden meanings in this part. This is just me to the reader. Please, follow these guidelines, and you'll have a fun experience.
Yeah. For the love of God, don't do anything stupid.
Yeah.
To sum it up, I'm guessing.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about your criteria when you were scouting these places. I'm curious, without getting into too many details, of course. But how did you come up with the places that you wanted to hide the treasures?
This is going to be tricky, right? Because people are listening to every word I say now.
That's true.
I don't know where the camera is, but yeah.
I would say that, I wanted them to be spread out. I have traveled in one capacity or other to almost every state in the country. So I do have some working knowledge of, like, the land of America. Basically, my process for what I really probably can tell you about it was that I knew from my experience searching that once you're on the ground, the world is a lot bigger. So, like, I don't know, like, if you guys like Google Maps.
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
But if you ever look at a place on Google Maps, even if you zoom all the way in and you feel like that all of the area as well as you can, and then you go to that place and you're on the ground looking at it, it's a whole different can of worms, right? It's a whole different ballgame. So I had that knowledge. So I didn't want to just go to a region without very specific kind of areas to, like, do reconnaissance in. But I also knew there was no way I was going to sit on my computer and pick a spot.
Okay.
And none of the treasures are hidden on private property. Okay. So it wasn't like, Uncle Joe's house, I know where that's at. That's not, that wasn't going to happen. So my game plan basically was to try to narrow it down to a region and then go do reconnaissance maybe in 4 to 6 places.
Okay.
And then I would land, and then I would have 4 to 6 places that I'd want to look around or hike to and do reconnaissance. And then until you're on the ground, at least in my experience, maybe if you do a treasure hunt, you'll have a different experience. But in my experience, until I was on the ground, I wouldn't know if an area that I picked was a good workable place.
Yeah.
And depending on how many people were there, that was another thing. I had to avoid people.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And then I had to do a lot of hiking. And then I had to try to figure out if, like, what the best options were from what I found. And so that was kind of a narrowing down process.
Must have gotten a lot of steps in.
Oh, yeah.
Many, many miles. And that was sort of the thing with, like, 5 treasure boxes versus one.
Yes.
Right.
You made more work for yourself.
Like, exponentially more work.
I hope you're wearing, like, your Apple Watch, so it was at least counting your steps
Yeah.
those days.
I don't have an Apple Watch, but yeah, I think I hiked, I don't know, it was like, I don't know, what was the total? It was a lot. It was a lot of miles.
I can imagine. I told you before we started recording, Andrew and I are tempted to drop everything and go on this treasure hunt ourselves.
I don't even think tempted. I think we're going to.
I think you should.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And we noticed, we're looking at the different regions on the map.
Yeah.
Ours is the biggest.
California, but we are
Like where
right next to
California
another
falls into.
one too.
Yeah.
So I think we should clarify for the listener what you're referring to.
Yes, definitely.
Because I released a video. There was like a promotional video kind of introducing this to the public, where there's a graphic of 5 different regions.
Yes.
Okay, so that's just a graphic.
Okay, so that's not real, or it's
You're getting an exclusive information. I've never had an opportunity to tell people this.
It's just a graphic.
So this is just a
go.
graphic that the person who was editing it made for visual representation. So
that makes so much sense.
It's not like those are the regions and there's a treasure box in each region. I didn't give people that much information. So I don't want people to, at least the people listening to your podcast will realize that that's not actually information you can use.
That's very helpful.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we
So the
definitely saw
the region might be larger.
it way bigger.
It might be more difficult.
That's even better, honestly. Just throwing people for a loop.
How long do you think it'll take folks to find the treasures? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think searchers are going to have a lot of different opinions about this. I don't want the treasure hunt to last forever, but I also would be more disappointed if it ended very quickly.
Right.
The forest fin treasure took around 10 years to find. So if it took 10 years to find all 5 boxes, I wouldn't have a problem with that. If it takes less, I won't have a problem with that. I don't want it to extend way out into the future. I didn't do this for a legacy project where we're in 2145 and people are like, the lost treasure of Jon Collins has yet to be found. Did it ever really exist?
Yeah.
But I do think there is some excitement that's generated by something not being found so fast.
Yes.
It has a little bit of more mystery. Mm-hmm. At some point, it goes from being a hidden treasure to more of a lost treasure. And in some ways, the kind of a lost treasure is kind of a cooler thing, right? So it could be that 1 or 2 of the boxes is found more quickly, which I'd be fine with, especially if it was not the largest box. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. It's one of these weird things where we don't know until we know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I will say that if it seems to be more difficult, I always have the opportunity to have more clues given in the future. If it's found too fast, then
that's right.
You can't do that.
Right.
So I don't want to discourage anyone because at the end of the day, I don't really know. Maybe it's really easy.
Right. Your only frame of reference.
There's no way to know.
Yeah. You couldn't run it by anybody.
Can't run it by anyone. Can't A/B test it. Can't do any of that. So.
This is really interesting. Okay.
I know. I'm really
That's
tempted.
the exciting part for me. It's like I'm giving birth to this child, and I don't know how it's going to grow up, and I get to watch it.
That's
for
a good
second,
metaphor.
I actually forgot we were recording, and I was going to be like, okay, so let's start coordinating this.
Start planning right now.
Yeah.
Well, then, because we're totally going to do this, are there any best practices that you recommend for folks when, because I am not an outdoorsy person. I'm an insidey person.
Yeah.
So
reading those history books.
Yeah. So if you are new to treasure hunting, are there any tips that you have for folks, things that you should have, things you shouldn't have? You
mean in trying to solve the clues, or when you go out to search?
When you go out to search, even if it were a different treasure.
I would suggest trying to have let's see. That's a good question. I haven't been asked that question before. From my own experience, I would say, again, I don't know. There's different personalities that might treat it different ways. For me, I wanted to have a good idea of kind of where I wanted to search, and I was very methodical about my searches. And I'm not saying you have to be that way. I think I just got really intensely focused on it. So I would have an area and I kind of grid search.
Oh, that's smart.
And one of the things I'll share with you, I haven't had a chance again to share this because I'm just starting to do interviews, but there's this terminology I think a lot of people, I notice when I'm having conversations, people start saying, using the word buried.
Oh,
As in, like, it's like you need a shovel and it's buried underground. I didn't bury any of the treasures underground. I don't want people going on public land
and digging up.
Like, especially if you're like on a state or a national park, that's a good way to get in trouble.
Yes.
To take a shovel and start digging around.
So don't bring a shovel. You don't need one.
Like, it's not, they may be hidden, but they're not buried. So like, if you want to get analytical, you could like do a grid search, because that way you're covering every little nook and cranny of that particular area. Take plenty of water.
Oh yeah,
that's a good one.
I mean, if you're only going to search, it depends.
How long you plan on being out there?
Yeah, I would don't search when there's snow on the ground. You're not going to find the boxes. And this is a good way to people to get too enthusiastic. Like, I'm going to go out in the wintertime and search when it's cold and there's snow or ice on the ground. It's like, no, that's a good way to hurt yourself or get too cold or like, there's no need to do that.
That's a good tip. Being from LA, I forgot about snow.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't even think about it. You're right.
But specifically, like you asked that question, like specifically, is there something on mind that you?
No, I was just like, what do you take with you, I guess, on a treasure hunting adventure? Because
snacks and water.
Snacks and water. There you go. We recently rewatched all of the Lord of the Rings movies.
There you go. Just whatever, like. And Frodo had.
Yeah, yes. They had like nothing. I kept thinking that the whole time. I'm like, they don't.
That's right. They didn't even have backpacks, did they?
They don't have backpacks. They don't have water canteens.
They just ate off the land.
Yeah, they had like the elvish bread.
Oh yeah, the elvish bread that's supposed to fill your stomach.
Yeah,
we could take that.
We'll take that. Yeah, but yeah, you don't need a metal detector. I'm guessing. No.
I mean,
I don't think.
I don't.
That's a good idea.
I wouldn't. I don't think you need a metal detector. I didn't put it someplace where you need a metal detector.
Okay.
I mean, there are people I'm sure are going to use metal detectors.
I'm sure not necessary.
But I don't think you need one. And there are probably some areas like national parks where you're not allowed to walk around with a metal detector.
Yeah.
So make sure you're allowed if you're going to have one, but I don't think it's necessary.
So wherever you go, consider like doing a grid, have water, snacks, and know the rules.
Yes.
Be safe.
Yeah, don't dig holes in national parks.
Don't
please.
dig holes in anywhere. You don't need to.
Really? Yeah.
Anywhere you don't need to.
That's a fair distinction. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that about wraps it up so far, right?
Yeah, unless there's anything we didn't ask that you think would be interesting for folks to know.
No, I'm just happy to answer the questions that you have.
Awesome. Well, tell us, when is your book available?
It's going to be out October 21st.
Well, congratulations.
So just right around the corner.
I know. I think we're going to get it the day it comes out.
Yeah, you could pre-order it. I saw on your website.
Yeah, you can pre-order it through your local bookstores. There's a link on the website, treasureinside.com. You can pre-order it on Amazon. And I would encourage you to get it sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Definitely getting it October 21st. There's Treasure Inside by Jon Collins-Black.
You guys excited?
Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah. I'm sure you're excited to...
I am excited.
To see how people start to uncover
I'm excited
things.
just to see other people get excited.
Yeah.
I was talking to your producer, Travis, before, and he was like, oh, that's your book. And I thought he knew what I was coming here for. He didn't. And so when I told him what it was, he was like, his eyes got as big as saucers.
He was so excited when we walked up.
That's what I enjoy. That's the reason I did that. So.
And this is actually a random, non-treasure related question, but I remember you mentioned that you were writing children's books.
Yeah.
Is this your first book, or have you written and published before?
So I have I co-founded a children's book company called Marble Press.
Oh, cool.
Okay, and so it's a traditional children's book company. We have lots of artists and illustrators. It's really great material. I also authored a children's book that our editor at my partner submitted my manuscript to our editor anonymously. So he would not feel pressured, and he fell in love with my manuscript, and so that book just came out in the spring. So I have two books that actually came out this year, but it's not like my children's book company is not for me to make books. It's for us to find great books from everywhere. But yes, I do have a children's book that came out in the spring.
What's the book called?
It's called Our Unbreakable Thread.
Oh, nice.
It's basically an ode from father to son. About like the invisible thread that kind of binds the generations together. So it's kind of like a Father's Day book.
Oh, that's
Oh,
awesome.
that's a perfect.
And this is probably more for adults and parents as it is for kids.
Yes. Well, congratulations
Thank
then
you.
on 2 books in 1 year.
Oh, and I did, since they were coming out the same year, I did put a clue in my children's book.
Oh, there we go.
So
So
there
get
is at
both,
least
folks.
one clue in the children's book.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we can go get the children's book tonight.
That's
even.
true. It's already available.
Perfect. And is there anywhere that folks should connect with you if they want to? Like, are you on social media or should they just visit your website?
I have a Twitter profile, an Instagram. I have a Facebook. And then if you want to message me or my team directly, you can do that on my website, which is treasureinside.com.
Awesome.
Okay, well, weirdos, there you have it. Jon Collins-Black with There's Treasure Inside, coming out October 21st this year.
Thank you so much for being here and for answering our questions.
Thank you. This has been fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.